What's up, my Housewives Relatable listeners? It's your girl Stella coming to you once again to talk about it all. What an episode! Who knew steaks could make people feel so angry? I'm wondering if Danielle is a vegetarian because she has had a tantrum again, left the party early, and I felt really bad for Nate because Nate had a very, very boozy night and was probably looking forward to filling up his belly and was like, "Damn, Danielle, please, can we stay? I'm hungry." On a serious note, there's a lot to unpack. And as always, I have a lot to say. That's why my listeners come here to hear my unique perspective on the show, on the cast, and so on. So I'll have a lot more to say on my Patreon. So be sure to head over at patreon.com/housewivesrelatable to hear about my thoughts on Louis, the Cartier Bracelets theory, and my thoughts on what the Queen Bee of New Jersey should be doing next. So be sure to tune in for that on my Patreon. So after a very boozy evening down the shore, we see the cast members in their respective shore houses, and all of them are preparing breakfast. So we see there's the Rachel Fuda's house, the Gorga's house, and the Jen Aiden's house. So I have to say, for some reason, the food down the shore always looks so good. The strawberries are so red, the tomatoes are red. They always have a beautiful spread. I'm a big fan of Middle Eastern food. So, Jan, I would love to stay with you because your spread always looks so delicious to me. So, anyways, at the Aiden's house, Danielle explains why she was so upset and left the party early. Honestly, I feel like Danielle is making too much of a big deal over this whole situation with her brother. She could have just told the ladies, listen, there's probably much more to the situation. I'm just not ready to talk about it. Or even better, she should have not even brought it up at all. Her brother's not on this show, so I don't really feel like, we have to care that much. I don't really care unless production is saving Danielle's brother for next season. I don't really care to talk about the brother situation anymore. I'm over it. So I think that Danielle should have followed in Teresa's footsteps, because if you recall, the first season and the second season of The Real Housewives of New Jersey, we didn't even know that Teresa was feuding with her brother Joe. We didn't even know that Teresa had a brother until Danielle Staub brought it up at the season's reunion when she said, "Did you acknowledge your nephew?" That's when we basically found out that there was a little something between Teresa and her family, and Joe and Melissa joined on season 3 of The Real Housewives after that. So I feel like Danielle could have done the exact same thing, not talk about her brother. We didn't need to know about that whole situation, especially if she's not ready to talk about it. I'm sure that the Instagram story is real, but obviously, just like the other ladies, I think there's a little bit more, but I don't care. Her brother's not on the show. But now that she doesn't want to talk about it, Margaret is going to look into it. I don't believe that Margaret was kidding when she joked about that in her confessional. She is going to dig and find out what the drama is between Danielle and her family at this point. So anyways, so piggybacking off of Danielle's brother drama, in comes Teresa bringing up to the ladies what Jen Fessler said to her at the party. So basically, they talk about the whole Donna Marco situation again, why Teresa didn't invite her to the wedding. Teresa saw this as, oh, the ladies were trying to make me feel bad at the party and tell me that I should have invited Donna, yada, yada, yada. So then Margaret, we see in that scene that Margaret repeats the same things to the other ladies. So she talks about the whole situation with Melissa as well. And Melissa, she looked visibly upset. Okay. and hurt. Obviously, that's her mom. So she doesn't really understand why Teresa is telling the ladies that she has history with Melissa's family. She feels like, hey, why do you feel like my mom does not deserve to be at your wedding, right? So it's kind of like a back and forth between the houses. So we can see that Melissa's hurt by that. And Margaret basically says that, well, at the party, one thing that you did not see is that Louis was basically sticking up for your mom. And he apparently approached Donna to apologize, for the whole ordeal. And he was even prepared to invite your mother to the wedding, So Margaret says this to Melissa and Joe and the Goldschneiders while they're having breakfast. So then Melissa is kind of just like, what? Like, huh? He was like ready to invite my mom. So she's kind of questioning Louis' intentions to the group. And she's wondering, like, she's saying to Margaret, like, do you think like he was really trying to do the right thing? Or like, what do you think he's trying to do here? And Joe Benigno, Margaret's husband, he chimes in and he says basically what everybody else is thinking out loud. He says that Louis is just trying to make himself look good. So basically, Joe Benigno doesn't believe that Louis is being for real. He thinks he's just trying to make himself look good. So everybody around that table seems to acknowledge that. Like, everybody nods to what Joe Benigno just said. And I will be addressing this very extensively in my Patreon. So make sure to tune in if you want to hear my full take on this. In the sneak peek showed to us last week, we see Teresa opening up about what happened between her brother and Louis a couple of years ago. She said a couple of years ago something happened. I just would like to remind everyone that this is Louis' first official season on the show. We saw him last season, as he started dating Teresa. But this is his first full season as a cast member on the show. Okay, so anyways, I guess what did not make sense last year is starting to make a little bit more sense now. As I never really bought into the whole, Louis is mad at Joe Gorga because of the comment made in Atlantic City about missing Joe Giudice as his brother-in-law. I guess you can be slightly offended by a comment like that, but I don't know. Usually men, they don't sweat things like that. So I went back to do, a little bit more searching. Like, I went back to watch the first episode of season 12. Remember when Teresa had a pool party? Just before that, Melissa and Joe had a lunch with Tracy, who shall never return, and Tiki, and the Gorgas looked uncomfortable when Louis' name came up. Joe and Melissa, they both looked like they were holding back something. Eventually Joe says, after Tiki says, Joe, talk. This is your sister, right? This is your sister. How come you're not saying anything? Eventually Joe says, it's because of everything we have been hearing about Louis. And he kind of leaves it like that. He kind of leaves it at that. So, Teresa and Joe, they had a little argument over the phone about what was said in Atlantic City. So Joe decides that he's not going to attend the pool party, but eventually he changes his mind. So I read somewhere a few years ago that the cast, like the people on the show, they don't necessarily have to reveal the real reason why they're arguing. They can totally make it up for the cameras, as long as it looks like, as long as the cameras are able to capture that there's an argument, that there's tension. They don't have to actually reveal to the public what the real reason is. So it could be they could be feuding and mad over a totally different situation. So finally, we see that Joe and Melissa attend a pool party. Again, my listeners, I'm not talking about this season. I'm talking about last season, the first episode of season 12. Okay. So Joe and Melissa walk into the pool party. Things are obviously tense as Joe and Melissa walk over to Teresa's house. Even Teresa looks a bit nervous as well. If you look at that scene, it's impossible that all of this tension is due to a silly joke made in Atlantic City. Louis finally walks in. He greets his girlfriend at the time, Teresa. He has some liquid courage tequila. He makes a few jokes, and then eventually he walks over to the men. The men are seated by the pool. I think there's Joe Gorga, Joe Benigno, Evan is there. Bill had not arrived at that point yet, but Joe's best friend as well is there. The pool guy, the guy who actually made the pool. So they're all sitting there, and then eventually Louis walks over to greet the men. Okay, so I want you guys to listen to this. Okay, I have a short recording of that interaction. And once again, I want to apologize if the volume is not the best, but I think it should be okay.
Good to see you. Yeah. You know Tony? Yeah. Louis comes up being fake to me, like, hello, I love you. We're just like this big, happy family. It's all bullshit.
Louis appears to be nervous. I'm sure. Who wouldn't be walking into the lion's den over here?
So again, that was a recording from last season, season 12, episode 1. Now, going back to the current season and episode, Joe Gorga basically gives his side of the story, how he was rooting for Louis and Teresa and embraced Louis from the moment he came into Teresa's life. So, back at Jen Aiden's house, Jen asked Teresa if anything had happened between the couples to cause such a rift, and then Teresa opens up about a business deal gone wrong between Louis and Joe. So in her confessional, we see production ask Teresa the same question. And she said she was not going to talk about it, but now she's going to address it because she wants to tell the truth, as she had been covering up for Joe to protect his reputation. So Teresa says that Joe came up with a pizza oven idea that would be named after their late father, Nono. So Nono's Pizza. And that Louis was like excited about the idea and immediately wanted to secure a deal for it. So apparently Louis came up with $250,000. He spoke to Teresa's attorney about it to get advice on what percentage to give Joe on this deal. The lawyer counseled to give Joe 5%, and then Joe was unhappy with his share, as he was expecting 50%. This is his idea. So then Teresa told Joe if he wants 50% of the business, he has to come up with 50% of the money. And then, all hell broke loose. Joe refused. Joe got mad. That's according to Teresa. And then Louis assumed the loss. I have to say that I don't really understand when Teresa says he assumed the loss. Did Louis lose any money here? That's basically all that I care about. Did he lose $250,000, or did he lose the opportunity of doing business with Joe, right? So anyways, I'll need some clarification when it comes to this. But back at the Gorga's house, we see production ask Joe the same question. Joe says that Louis screwed him over, like he screwed him with the pizza ovens business. So according to Joe Gorga now, Joe Gorga got his nephew involved in the deal with Louis, and they proceeded to order the ovens. Joe was planning on splitting equally on the deal. And then later on, his nephew told Joe that he had ordered some ovens for Teresa, that Teresa had a photo shoot with her girls and something called skinny pizzas or something like that. So it doesn't seem like, based on what Joe is saying, it doesn't seem like Joe was involved in the photo shoot or was even aware of it. So he decided to call Louis. Apparently, Louis gave him attitude. Teresa got on the phone, and then she told Joey, "Did you put any money up?" And the business deal, fell through. So it seems like on Louis and Teresa's end, Joe is not happy with the percentage he was getting, and therefore that's why it didn't work out. On Joe and Melissa's end, it appears like Louis and Teresa tried to pull a fast one on Joe and basically kept him out of the deal altogether and stole his idea. That's what it seems like to me. So something is not adding up. Both stories are very different. I must say that in the footage, that's just my own perception, my own opinion. In the footage, both Louis and Teresa look a bit nervous as they're telling the story. So I'm not sure who's telling the truth. I'm not sure who's lying. I'm sure there will be more to uncover when it comes to that whole situation. But so far, the two stories don't quite match. And it's not the first time that we hear that Joe Gorga has been accused of shady business dealings or screwing people over, not paying his workers or contractors, things like that. It's been alluded on the show. So, even a few seasons ago, there was a situation with Teresa's real estate broker, Michelle, who claimed that Joe owed her husband tens of thousands of dollars after they teamed up on Grow with Gorga. So I'm not saying that Joe has the most stellar reputation when it comes to business, but at the same time, I don't feel like Louis has the best reputation either, right? There's also stuff out there about him, and he has a rocky history in business as well. So there's things that have come up about Louis in the press. So we shall see what's going on. But I do think that someone may hold the key to this enigma, right? I do feel like there's a particular person that is no longer on the show that may know a little bit more about this situation. Not necessarily about the pizza oven situations, but just about the business in general. So I think the person that holds the key to this enigma is Dina Canton, formerly known as Dina Menzo. Dina is probably sitting on a wealth of information, a wealth of knowledge at this point that she's not sharing with the public. And this is just my own assumption. I do not have any communications with Dina Canton at this point. What I know is that she tries to stay away from this whole media circus that is the Real Housewives of New Jersey. But historically, Dina has been very good at keeping a tight lip on, situations that are aching with it, whether it's with a family member. Remember, we never truly knew at that time why Dina left the show, and why Dina was, that there was a rift between her and her sister Caroline. On the show, they always appeared to be, quite united. Like they always showed up as a united front. But behind the scenes, they were feuding. And behind the scenes, she was feuding with Jacqueline as well. And at that point, after season 1 had wrapped up, if you remember, Dina kind of distanced herself from the entire cast, including with Teresa. And, if you listen to Dina Canton's podcast, Dina Does, she kind of mentions this. Like, she has an episode with Teresa where she says, at some point, Teresa, I distanced myself from everyone. I was mad. And I was also a little bit mad at you, right? Dina says this. But she never truly explains why. Like, maybe Teresa knows why, but us till this day, we still don't know why Dina was mad at Teresa, or why Dina is mad at Caroline, or, even at the beginning in season 1, you see Dolores shows up with Dina, and Dolores is introduced as Dina's friend. And then by season 2, Dolores becomes Caroline's friend, and then Teresa's friend, and then eventually, she becomes a full-time cast member. But I remember many, 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 many years ago, and I can't find the recording or the video on that, but Dina was giving an interview, and please do not quote me on this, but I believe she gave an interview with Sirius, I think, radio. I'm not quite sure. I can't remember because it was a long time ago already, okay? But Dina said at that point that she went on a trip with Dolores in Atlantic City, and apparently Dolores was talking to somebody on the phone. I'm not quite sure who she was talking to, but Dina was vacationing with Dolores at this point. And the reason that Dina gave to the interviewer as to why she was feuding with Dolores or not talking to Dolores anymore was because Dolores was talking on the phone with somebody. I'm assuming it was a man. And she was talking about Dina. She was talking shit about Dina and saying, they can't be trusted, those guys. They're like something about them being untrustworthy, a little crooked or something like that. So I think Dolores, based on what Dina was saying back then, Dolores was talking about Dina and Dina's ex-husband at the time, Tommy Manzo. So that's the excuse Dina gave the interviewer on that in that interview several years ago. But then later on, like I'm talking about years and years and years later, possibly 2020, 2021, Dina revealed online, I think through a caption or a post or an Instagram post, I can't really remember what it was, but just going off by my memory here, I believe Dina said something, the reason why she was feuding or not talking with Dolores anymore and her sister Caroline had to do with them both writing a letter of character for like in favor of Tommy Manzo, which happens to be Dina Kenton's ex-husband. If you recall, at some point in time, Dina was burglarized and assaulted at her home with her then fiance, now husband, David Kenton. And it was like a savage assault. And apparently the brain behind the entire operation, allegedly, right? Because I don't need anybody to come and just blow up my little podcast here, but I'm just saying that, yes, apparently the person behind it all, the brain behind the operation was allegedly Tommy Manzo. So, to make a long story short, I guess what I'm trying to say is Dina is one of those housewives that came on the show first season. She was done because she was truly done after the first season, and the episodes that we saw season 2 from a few sources were already filmed from the previous season. So they already knew Dina was not coming back for season 2. They just kind of needed to film her exit with Danielle and then just cut her off the show. But I guess what I'm trying to say is that Dina is one of those housewives that comes on the show, doesn't argue with her family on TV, which I have to give her tremendous credit for, right? And then she leaves the show, and people have questions. People ask, like, why you don't talk to Caroline? Why you don't talk to Jacqueline? Why you don't talk to Dolores? And then Dina says nothing. And then 10 years later, she finally says something, right? So we kind of feel, like, I kind of get the feeling that something similar is going on between Teresa and Dina. And it's weird because, we all follow them on social media. They're still friends, I believe. But they do not speak on social media. So we don't see any likes, we don't see any comments, we don't see any love. And at some point in time, at the very beginning of Teresa's relationship with Louis, Teresa and Dina, Louis and David were all vacationing together. Okay? They were all vacationing together. They went to Greece together. I believe Dina was even there for Teresa's engagement to Louis in Greece. Like, it was like this big thing, marry me, like candles everywhere, big lights. You know, it was like a big production. So Dina was part of that. And she wrote a very, very long post about her friendship with Teresa, how they're sisters, how, you know, not only she's seeing a person that is bringing the best out of her, but she's bringing the best out of Louis, and that she's so happy that their men are friends and talk about, you know, business and how to be better, and they even go shopping together. So, you know, it was like this beautiful ode to Teresa and Louis. But then crickets, you know, I'm just saying, like, something happened. It has been alluded that something happened between the two. As you know, Dina did not attend Teresa and Louis' wedding, and she was supposed to be a bridesmaid. She did attend. The engagement party, but did not attend the wedding. So sometimes I feel like, you know, there's been a lot of speculations out there, and I do not know this for a fact, but Teresa says that her and Dina are still on speaking terms. The last time I heard her say this was on Watch What Happens Live. She was with Louis, and Andy asked her, do you speak with Dina? She said, oh yeah, I just texted her today or something like that, right? So then, okay, so I guess they're still on speaking terms. But there's still no likes. There's still no comments. We don't see any recent pictures of them anymore, right, on social media. And obviously Dina lives on the East Coast, so I'm not expecting them to, you know, see each other every weekend. But I'm just saying, like, the fact that there has been absolutely nothing from Dina, like no official statement from Dina and no official statement from Teresa as to the status of the relationship, I find that a little odd. And then if you caught Melissa's podcast On Display a few episodes ago, I can't remember exactly which one, but Melissa says Dina and Teresa are not on speaking terms. They do not speak. They're not friends. That's what she said. So I don't know. I don't know who's playing who. I don't know who's telling the truth. You know, we have to watch the whole story unfold. But if I had to take an educated guess when it comes to the whole Dina and Teresa debacle, I would say that I tend to believe that Dina is just being quiet right now, which is kind of common for Dina when she's trying to stay away from the drama. Like, historically, Dina does not fight with her family. Dina does not fight with her friends. Dina doesn't throw anybody under the bus, really, right? But I kind of feel like Dina said to Teresa, listen, I'm still the godmother of your kid, Adriana. We saw Dina shared a picture of Adriana on her birthday a few months ago. Teresa kind of just typed in the comment just like 3 hearts, like love, 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 right? But I truly, like, I don't know. This is just my personal opinion. I don't know if this is real. I think that Dina may have said to Teresa, let's make a deal. We are not in speaking terms right now, but we have known each other for 30 years. I'm not interested in playing in the mud with everybody else. So, you know, I'm not going to say anything wrong about you. You don't say anything wrong about me. And that's that. You know, if people ask if we're on speaking terms, we'll just say we are on speaking terms. And voila, right? And I have a feeling that maybe even before Teresa went on Watch What Happens Live, She may have texted Dina, or Dina texted her to say, listen, they're probably going to ask you about the status of a relationship or a friendship. Just say, yes, we're still speaking and you spoke to me today, and that's that, right? But I truly believe that Dina is the key to this enigma, okay? I have a feeling that something happened. Without taking any parties here, like I'm not taking Joe Gorga's side or Teresa's side or anything like that. I'm just trying to be neutral and look at the facts. And you know what? I might be completely wrong, so then I'll stand corrected. But for now, my gut feeling is telling me that something happened between the men, between David and Louis. I'm not quite sure what it is, but usually men may fight over business. So if one day Dina decides that she wants to open up about that, maybe we'll know a little bit more. You know, maybe it will show a side of Louis that we have not seen necessarily on the show. Dina is not on the show, so I'm not sure that, you know, this is going to come to light at some point in time. But I have a feeling that something happened between the men. And that's the reason why the ladies are not speaking. So Dina is probably the one sitting on that wealth of information and just not sharing that with the public. So we'll see. We will see.